My sister and I are here at the Wild Waves at Fedra Way, and we're in line for the wild thing, and we just noticed something. Is that an important part of the infrastructure? I feel like that's questionable. Louie and I are out here walking. My sister and I went to Wild Waves yesterday. I was going to take the grandkids, and they were all busy, so we were like, you know what, we've never gone without the kids. Let's do that. So yesterday we went. It was like about 89 degrees, and a lot of times the littles don't want to go on the slides and things, so my sister and I stood in line and did a couple of slides. And we did 3 rides, and we were there. So we got there about noon. We left around 4:30. So we were there about 4.5, 5 hours, and we really only did about 5 rides total. The lines were insane, but we did the wild thing. Which is the big roller coaster that sits out by the freeway, and I have not done that since my kids were little, so it's probably been 20 years. And beat the crap out of us. We're like, now we know why we don't do this one. It was fun, and we screamed and all the things, but yeah, we were sore. We got off, and then we did the log ride. And what's funny about the log ride, it has been closed forever. Like it hasn't. I've never been on it. And I've been there a lot of times, and it's always closed. Well, it was open, and it opened right as we walked up. So we were able to be in the very front row, and we got sopping wet, and we squealed and had a blast. And we went on the scrambler or the egg beater, whatever you want to call that. And then we went on 2 slides and got very wet. So I went down first, completely backwards and disorientated, and flew out and got out no problem. But then when my sister came down, for some reason she got caught in this current and she could not get out of it. So finally the lifeguard took pity on her and moseyed her way over there to help her get out of the current, because she couldn't get out of it. And of course, when you're our age, getting out of the tube is also a challenge. So she couldn't do it while she was in that crazy current. And this lifeguard took pity on her and helped her. But we cooled off, and it was a lot of fun. But that wore us out. So next time I go, I'll probably have the littles with me, and like I told my sister, I'll probably just hang out at the wave pool and stay cool and let them do what they want. A couple of the younger ones don't like to go on any rides and just play in the pool anyway, so it's easy for me. I've got a dog coming up here. I started thinking about how different parenting is for my girls with their kids, and how the kids have changed and things. And I like to just not say, oh, the kids today, how, old people do. But I like to think about it and figure out why it is the way it is. Now, I'm Gen X. I was born in 1968. My younger years were in the 70s. We were those kids that, no seat belts. We were out till the street lights came on. Parents never knew where we were. We drank out of the hose, all the things. I'm typical Gen X. And then through the 80s, I was a teenager. Which, the 80s are the best. Don't tell my kids that, but the 80s were the best. They think the 90s were the best, but anyway. And then I had my kids in 87 and 1990, so they were young through the 90s, and then teenagers through the early 2000s. And The first thing I noticed about parenting differences with them is when their kids were a little younger. Very protective. Very helicopter parent. One parent more than the other, for sure. But very protective. I remember my one daughter, not even letting her littles, who were, kindergarten age or whatever, couldn't even play out in the front yard alone because she was afraid of them getting taken or whatever. And I used to tell her, I'm like, it's no worse than it's ever been. We just know about it now. And I think that's the difference is I grew up in a time when there was no internet. Unless it made the news, nobody knew about it as far as abductions or rapes or murders or, unless it made the news, no one knew about it. And then you had to watch the news or read the paper to even know about it. And now, when my kids are raising their kids, even 10 years ago, something just went under this dock. Every little thing you know about immediately through social media. And the more social media there is, like now with TikTok, it's just instant. Everything is known immediately. And so it's the illusion that more of this is happening. And maybe it is. Maybe it is more because there's copycatters and there's people that want to, ooh, it's bright. People that want to be, famous for all the wrong reasons. And so, they've raised their kids differently with more protection and more hovering because they're just more aware of the nasty that's out there. And that makes me sad. And then the kids are different. And different in different, for number one, a lot of kids are kind of a little less adventurous because they've been so protected. I have some grandkids like that, some that are not. But some kids are just a little less adventurous, a little more afraid to just kind of do things on their own. They're not as independent as we were as kids, and even as my kids were, because I didn't have internet raising my kids either. And their attention spans are shorter, so they're a little more, crazy-eyed. ADHD, whatever you want to call it, they just have super short attention spans. And so entertaining kids is harder than it used to be. I think I've talked about this before. I used to own a daycare center, and I started out with just a couple of kids in my house, and it grew and grew and grew, and pretty soon I had 65 kids. This was over a 12-year span. And the more the merrier, man. Kids were easy to watch back in those days because they would entertain themselves for hours. They would play together better. There was the typical biting and fighting over toys and stuff, but, they would sit there and build with Legos, or they would, color or draw, or their imaginations would run wild, and kids today kind of miss out on that a little bit because there's so much entertainment spoon-fed to them that they have a hard time just kind of entertaining themselves. I find that out when I go, I take my grandkids camping. I have one child out of all 5 that can completely entertain itself. Makes friends immediately when we get there, is out riding bikes, building forts, doing all the things. And the other 4 are a little more screen happy. They want to be on the screens, or if the screen time is over, they don't know what to do with themselves. They don't know how to entertain themselves. They're bored. So it's just different. Is it good or is it bad? I'm not here to judge. But we're doing the leash dance with Louis. So when I hear older people, kids are this, not anything. It's not necessarily that the kids are worse. It's just the environment's so much different that they are growing up in. And the parenting environment is so much different. There's so much more fear. And maybe there's more to be afraid of. Especially now people are walking around and they have cameras in their freaking sunglasses, and they could be filming your child or stalking your child. You can do so much as take a photo and find out where it was taken and where they live. I mean, it's a different world, and I get it. And I have to remember that when I start to get a little judgy about, you know, how my kids are raising their kids or how my grandkids are acting. It's like, I can't compare. I can't say, well, when I was a kid, I walked uphill both ways in the snow. Because it's a different world now. I can't compare how I grew up and how I raised my kids with how my kids grew up and how they're raising their kids, you know, because it's a different world. And we need to remember that as Gen X grandparents. Give it some thought. Think about it.